What if I told you that a single cup of coffee could change someone's entire life? That one ordinary day in a quiet cafe turned into a story the whole world couldn't stop talking about. Because on that day, a young waiter walked up to serve a man he didn't even recognize. And that man was Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader known for his courage, humility, and unshakable sense of justice. No bodyguards, no press, no cameras, just one man, one cup of coffee, and a tip worth $1 million. But why? Did he do it? Was it a test, a message, or something much deeper? Stay till the end, because the truth behind that moment will change how you see generosity forever. It was early morning in Ouagadougou. The city was waking up, the smell of roasted beans filling the air, voices blending with the sound of motorbikes and street vendors. Inside a small corner cafe, one barely noticeable between two tall buildings, a young waiter named Issa began his shift. He was tired, his shoes were worn out, but his smile never faded. He had dreams bigger than his reality, to study, to help his family, to build something of his own. That morning, as the sun cut through the dusty streets, a man quietly walked in. No entourage, no expensive suit, just simple clothes, a calm face, and eyes that carried stories. Issa didn't recognize him. He simply greeted, "Good morning, sir. What would you like today?" The man smiled gently. "Just a coffee. Black. Simple, straightforward." No one in the cafe realized that the man they just served was the president of Burkina Faso, the man many called Africa's youngest revolutionary leader. Issa brought the coffee, steaming, rich, perfectly brewed. The stranger looked at him and asked, "How long have you been working here?" Issa hesitated, not used to customers asking about his life. "Almost 3 years now. It's not easy, but it's honest work." The man nodded. Honest work is the most noble thing a person can do. They spoke for a few minutes, about dreams, struggle, and what it means to serve others with dignity. There was something different about this man's tone. It wasn't pity, it was respect. And for the first time, Issa felt seen, not as a waiter, but as a person. When the stranger finished his coffee, he stood up, reached into his pocket, and placed a small envelope on the table. "For you," he said. "A thank you for serving," with a smile. Then he walked out, quietly, unnoticed. Issa looked at the envelope, confused. Customers left tips all the time, a few coins, maybe a small bill. But this one felt heavy. He waited until his manager wasn't looking, then opened it behind the counter. Inside was a single check. At first he thought it was a mistake. He blinked, looked again, $1,000 USD. His hands shook. He dropped the check. His heart raced. Was this real? He ran outside to find the man, but he was gone. No car, no guards, no trace, just silence and a city that didn't yet know what had happened. Word spread fast. By afternoon, the cafe was filled with reporters, locals, and police officers trying to confirm the story. When they checked the signature, one name stood out: Ibrahim Traoré. The same leader who had refused luxury cars, who wore military fatigues instead of designer suits, who said, "If my people cannot eat 3 times a day, I don't deserve to sleep in comfort." People couldn't believe it. Why would a leader give a random waiter $1 million? But to Traoré, it wasn't random. He once said, "The true measure of power is not in how much you take, but how much you give." For him, that one act wasn't charity. It was a message. That night, Issa couldn't sleep. He stared at the check, tears in his eyes. All his life, he'd believed he had to fight alone. But this was different. This was someone saying, "I see you." Instead of buying cars or luxury, Issa used that money to rebuild his neighborhood cafe, hire local workers, and open free evening classes for kids who couldn't afford school. In a few months, the place became more than a cafe. It became a symbol of hope. And when journalists asked him why he didn't just leave the country and start fresh, he smiled and said, "Because a true gift isn't meant to escape, it's meant to multiply." He smiled humbly and said, "It wasn't about the money. It was about value." That young man served me with dignity, not because I was powerful, but because he believed in respect. The world needs more people like that, who give their best even when no one's watching. He paused, so I gave him something to remind him that goodness never goes unseen. Soon, stories like Isa's began to surface everywhere. People inspired to act kindly, to lift others, to believe again in silent goodness. A taxi driver helped an old woman for free. A baker gave bread to hungry children. A student shared his scholarship with a friend who failed by 1 mark. Because sometimes, one story is enough to awaken a nation. And Ibrahim Traoré's coffee shop moment became that story, a reminder that true power doesn't come from authority, but from humanity. So next time you serve someone, next time you receive kindness, pass it forward, because you never know. The person in front of you might just be writing your destiny in silence. As Traore once said, revolutions are not built on speeches. They are built on acts of kindness. This wasn't just a tip, it was a seed, planted in the heart of one man, that grew into a forest of hope. And that is how 1 cup of coffee changed the world.